Shalom, Israel. Brother Reggie Jr. here. So today, guys, I'm going to be doing Genesis chapter 22. I'm just going to be picking up where I left off from last time. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and get right into this thing. Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 and 2. And it says, "And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here am I." Verse 2. Let's see what this temptation is. "And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell of thee." So that was the temptation. The temptation was that Abraham had to basically kill his son Isaac for an offering to the Most High. And that would be a temptation, because not only is Isaac Abraham's only son that God recognizes. That's why he said thine only son, because God only recognized Isaac. Even though Abraham had other sons, he only recognized Isaac. And not only that, Isaac was the son in whom all those promises that the Most High promised to Abraham, it was going to come through Isaac. So right after all of them promises and stuff was told to Abraham, he turned right around and said, okay, this child who all these promises going to come through, I need you to kill him for me as an offering. So naturally something would go on in your mind. You would be alarmed at that. But Abraham was not shook at all. He wasn't even fazed by this. But I want to show you guys something in terms of when it says God did tempt Abraham. Let's go see what James has to say about this in terms of God tempting people. Let's go to James chapter 1, and I'm going to read verses 12 through 14. And it says, "Blessed is the man that endureth temptation." Not the man that is tempted, but the man that endures the temptation. "For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him." And news break, brothers and sisters, not everybody loves the Most High, especially a lot of these religious people in the Sunday church and in the Sabbath church. Okay, a lot of them do not love the Most High, so a lot of them are going to get the axe at the end. Okay, only a very few people, a remnant, love the Most High. But anyway, 13. "Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of what God? For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man." Okay, but what? "But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed." So in other words, all God simply does is command. And I'm going to show you guys an example of a literal or practical situation in which this applies. And that's going to be in Mark 10, a story that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. But all the Lord simply does, brothers and sisters, is he just commands. But the temptation is when you can't follow through with his command because it's something that you're holding on to, something that you love, something else that you obey more than the Most High. It's when you fight in your mind, am I going to follow God or am I going to hold to this thing that I love? You remember the Lord said where your heart is, that's where your treasure is also. And so it's funny because last year and this year, and the Lord going to continue to do it, he been exposing a lot of y'all Hebrews. He been exposing y'all. And to me, it's absolutely hilarious that y'all getting to see y'allself for who y'all really is. And who are you guys really? Children of darkness who hate the Most High and is simply playing church. But let's go look at a practical example of what the Most High, of what the Most High of what James mean when he say God don't tempt anybody, but a man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust. Let's go ahead and see a practical example of that. Mark chapter 10, and I'm going to read verses 17 through 22. And it says, And when he was gone forth into the way, there came one running and kneeled to him. So there was a guy, he came running and kneeled before Jesus the Christ and asked him, Good master, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life? And Jesus said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, and that is God, to my God the Father. 19. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not defraud. Honor thy father and mother. Verse 20. And this is what the man said that was bound to Christ. And he answered and said unto him, Master, all these have I observed from my youth. So he's like, Lord, from my youth, I kept all them commandments. But, verse 21, Then Jesus, beholding him, loved him, and said unto him, One thing thou lackest. And for a lot of y'all, listen to this, because this applies to you. One thing thou lackest. Go thy way, sell whatsoever thou hast, give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come and take up the cross and follow me. Verse 22. Now this is what James meant. Every man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust and is enticed. 22. And he was sad at the saying, and went away grieved, for he had great possessions. You know what the problem was? The man was covetous. See, the Lord said, hey, Jesus just simply gave a command, as he always do as God. Hey, go sell your stuff to the poor. Take up your cross. Hey, man, come follow me. You're going to get into heaven. You're going to have eternal life. But why couldn't a man do it? He had great possessions. You know what it's saying? He loved money more than God. The temptation is when you love something more than God, to the point where you will not follow God because you love something more than him. And it don't just have to be money. Money's the obvious. It could be women. For the women, it could be men. It could be a big church. It could be wanting to have all these members. It could be you, a certain position you got in the church. You don't want to give that up for the Most High. I want to follow the Most High. I know what I've been hearing, about this Bible. And I know that this I've been getting in this Bible is true. But, I don't want to get kicked out of this great big old congregation and stuff like that. So I'm going to continue to ignore the truth so I can keep my position. Well, guess what? At the end of time, you are going to go into eternal fire because you couldn't give up that one thing. What is it that you love more than the Most High that is keeping you from being perfect? Because he wasn't young, it just say a man. That's what was keeping him from following the Most High all the way. He couldn't give up that money. He loved money too much. He couldn't give it up. I can't get it, so I love it too much. And some of y'all, that's you. There is something you love more than the Most High. Now, we don't know whether or not this man repented later. The Bible doesn't tell us that. But what I can tell you is that it is 2022. And that man who said that to Jesus, he is dead and in the grave. So what did his possessions do for him? I pray to the Most High that man repented, because he dead. His money didn't do nothing for him. And when he wake up, he got to take an account for everything that he did and everything that he ever said. I got to follow the Most High all the way. I can't, ain't nothing getting in my way. Not women, not money, not a big church, not a position at a church. Nothing gonna stop me. I'm going to go all the way. I can't go to that lake of fire, y'all. I'm just telling you. But let's go back real quick, guys, to Genesis chapter 22. And I'm going to continue reading. Let's read 3 through 8. And it says, "And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went into the place which God had told him." And this is the land of Moriah. And in Moriah, Abraham was to go to a mountain and sacrifice, basically, Isaac, whichever one the Lord led him to. Verse 4. "Then on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass." Because remember, he took them 2 young men with him and Isaac on his journeys to the land of Moriah. Well, he told them 2 young men, "Hey, hang back right here. And I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you." Verse 6. "And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together." Let me repeat that verse again. "And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? So Isaac said, I see the fire, I see the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? That's because Isaac was the offering. Verse 8. And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. Now, what we just witnessed right here, I know it's more to it, but what we just witnessed right here is a parable between God the Father and God the Son. That all of that we just read, that is a parable between God the Father and God the Son. And in this case, Abraham represents the Father, and Isaac, he represents Jesus the Christ. And we're going to see some similarities between the two. Now, this is in no particular order, but you are for sure going to see some of these similarities. I'm going to go through all of them. I was going to only do a few, but I'm going to go ahead and do all of the similarities. I'm sure you could find more if you really look. The first thing is that Isaac and Jesus were the only son of their father. Wait a minute, but Abraham had more sons. He did, but God only acknowledged Abraham's only son as being Isaac, because he was the son of promise. Therefore, that's the only person that God was worried about in terms of Abraham's seed. But nevertheless, Isaac and Jesus were the only son, or the only begotten son of their father. So Genesis 22 in verse 2, I'm not going to read all of it, but just the part that I want. And he said, Take now thy son, thine what? Thine only son, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah. Now, where have we heard that from? Well, that's why I told you it was a parable. Let's go ahead and go to the Christian church's favorite scripture or verse, John 3:16. Let's see where we've heard this before, because remember I said they were both the only begotten of their father, and we just read it for Abraham. Now let's read it for Christ. 3:16, it says, For God, the Father, so loved the world, meaning Israel, that he, the Father, gave his only begotten son. Didn't it say that right here by Abraham? take now thy son, thine only son, whom thou lovest. That's the same thing with the Father, his only son, Jesus. Let's look at another one. We are going to look at their sacrificial deaths, because let's just read it. I put both of them carried the wood to their sacrifice, because they essentially both were the burnt offering. So they both carried the wood to their sacrifice, just like Christ, he carried that cross, that wooden cross. Well, Isaac, remember, he also carried the wood. Genesis 22:6. It says, Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon his son. Okay, so guess what? Isaac, he was carrying that wood to his what? His sacrifice. Just like Jesus, he was the sacrificial lamb, and he what? Carried that cross to his sacrifice. So we read it for Isaac, how he carried his wood or his cross. Now let's look at it for Christ. So let's go to John 19. John 19, and I'm going to read verses 16 and 17. Now let's see Christ carry his wood just like Isaac did. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified. And they took Jesus and led him away. And he, meaning Jesus, bearing his what? His cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Golgotha. Because remember, Christ was carrying that cross to the place of his sacrifice, just like Isaac. Man, ain't that some cool stuff? Not cool, but y'all know what I mean. Just the parallel. How God already foretold of Jesus' sacrifice all the way here in Genesis chapter 22. Now, it's going to be some other stuff that I'm going to show as a parallel that ain't in Genesis 22. It was in previous Genesis chapters. I'm going to go ahead and show y'all the parables there, because that whole Abraham Isaac thing, that was a parable. There is another one I want to read here concerning Genesis 22. Okay, they both had, Isaac and Jesus, they both had sacrificial deaths, even though they were innocent. Genesis 22:2. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell thee of. Now, Isaac did not do anything worthy of him being killed, because essentially he was going to be killed for an offering to the Most High. Well, the same token, it was the same with Christ. Let's go to Luke 23. Because Christ, he also didn't do anything that would cause him to be deserving of death. So Luke chapter 23, and I'm going to read verses 39 through 41. And it says, and one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, if thou be the Christ, save thyself and us. But the other, okay, the other thief, he was like, he rebuked him, saying, doest not thou fear God, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, meaning that other thief was like, listen, we deserve to be up here getting ready to get put to death. We're deserving of this death that we get. But watch what he say, just like with Isaac. But we receive the reward. Oh no, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But look what they say concerning Christ, just like with Isaac. But this man have done nothing amiss. This man has done nothing. Jesus did nothing for him to be deserving of death, other than him following God. All he did was follow God, and they was putting him to death as if he was a criminal, dying the death of a criminal. See how you see that parallel between him and Isaac? Same thing with Isaac. Isaac didn't do anything deserving to be killed, to be sacrificed. But it wasn't about that. It was just the Most High showing us, foretelling us about the death of Jesus. Now, I want to show you guys some other parallels. Let me see if I really want to do it. No, I'm not going to do it here, but I will probably end up posting these other parallels between the two. I'm going to post these in the description of the video, because I really just want to get through this. I just wanted to show you guys kind of the core thing. So let's go ahead and get back into this, guys. I left off in verse 8, so I'm going to read verse 9, and it says, "And they came to the place of which God had told of him. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son," just like Christ, he was bound, "and laid him on the altar upon the wood," just like Christ, he was put on that wood. He was put on that cross, just like Isaac is being put on the wood. 10. "And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And an angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I." Verse 12. "And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing that thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me." See? Remember what James said, a man is only tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Because Abraham could have said, "No, not my son Isaac. Lord, you said that all them things you promised me, you said it was going to come through Isaac. Now you want me to kill him. Lord, I can't do that." The Lord would have cut Abraham off right there. But nope. Abraham was going to do just what the Lord told him. You know why? Because Abraham wasn't in it for Isaac. All Abraham didn't care about the promises. He didn't care about Isaac. All Abraham cared about is me and God. All I want to do is follow God. Everything else in my life, promises, a child being born in me, all of that stuff is secondary. All I care about is following the Most High and loving him. God was astonished. I know that thou lovest me. So faith without works is dead. See, some of y'all claim you got faith. I love God. Oh yeah, I'll do anything. But then God give you a command. You need to start loving your brothers. You need to get rid of all of that money, and you need to come serve me. You need to get out of these big churches. Stop coveting. You want to stay in that position, so you're willing to reject the truth you know that you're hearing is true because you want to stay in a position. Get out of that position and come serve me. A lot of y'all won't do it. A lot of y'all won't do it because it's something that y'all love more than the Most High that is causing y'all to disobey him. And that is why you guys cannot submit to the Most High, because your treasure ain't on the Most High. Your treasure is somewhere else. And that, my friends, is the problem. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and with all your mind. That is the first and the greatest commandment. That is the first and the greatest commandment, because if you keep that, you will be obedient even unto the death of your cross. You gotta love God no matter what. You gotta love God more than your preacher. You gotta love God more than your friends. You gotta love God more than your friends, your job, your money, your children. You name it. Mama, daddy, house, your dogs, your grass, whatever it is, your cars. You got to love God more than anything. You have to have the mindset that I'm willing to give it all up today to follow God. And a lot of y'all, unfortunately, you do not have that mindset. A lot of y'all are threatened by having your positions taken in a church, and you bend the knee to the devil. I want to follow God. I know God been giving all of these brothers and sisters, this understanding. I know what I'm seeing is true, but I don't want to get kicked out of the church. You know what I mean? I love this church and stuff. You're not worthy to bear the cross. Then you might as well go back out there in the world and eat, drink, and be merry, because you're not worthy to be in this. At that point, you're just playing church. And a lot of y'all Sabbath day so-called keepers supposed to be in this truth and stuff. All y'all is religious. You just playing. You might as well go back out there in the world and stop with this front, because you're just simply being lukewarm. But I want to show you guys, man, that was a great display of faith that Abraham showed, that he was going to kill his own son for the Most High, despite knowing that son, everything that the Most High promised, it was that son in whom the promises was going to come into fruition. And Abraham didn't give a damn. Abraham like, I'm finna kill him because I love the Most High and he ordered me to do so. That show you, boy, Abraham had some faith. Abraham was well aware of them promises and everything that was said about Isaac. But hey, God tell me to do something. I love him enough to do it. I don't care what happened. James chapter 2 and verse 22. And it says, let's read 21. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son upon the altar? And let me add to that, knowing that he was the child of promise, knowing that everything God told him that he was going to do for Abraham. I'm going to make you a great nation. You're going to inherit all things. That was going to come through Isaac. But in spite knowing all of that, Abraham was like, you know what? I'm going to offer him anyway. 22. Seest thou how faith wrought his works? And by works, his faith was made perfect. Because at that point, Abraham wasn't talking. He had the deeds to show it. A lot of y'all, you do a whole lot of talking, but when it come down to it, you don't got the works to prove your faith. So at that point, you just talking. That's all you doing. Just talking. And a lot of y'all brothers and sisters, y'all are being exposed every day for being religious nutbags. Because a lot of y'all, that's what you are. You a bunch of religious nutbags. You got the appearance of righteousness. Some of y'all are convinced of your own righteousness. It's a shame. It's a shame. A lot of y'all, you're not willing to give up your friend. Yeah, I know what the Most High is saying is true. All of this understanding that's coming out and all of that. But I ain't gonna lie, I can't lose my best friend, man. That's my damn bro. Or I can't give up this little position at this church here, man. I love it too much. That's what the Most High, that's what he's talking about. Right there. That's what he's talking about. So a lot of y'all, you're just talking. But when it come down to it, you're playing church and you don't love the Most High like you say you do. You're being exposed. You're being exposed. Now, let's go ahead and go to Matthew 6. Matthew chapter 6. And like I said, you can only serve one master. You can't serve two. Matthew 6 and 21. Let's see why some of y'all can't submit to God. 21. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. See? A lot of y'all claim, yeah, I love God, love me some God. I'll do anything. I'll die for him. I'll do all this. And then the Lord says, okay, I need you to lead this church. Come follow me. Because that stuff they teaching is garbage. And it's going to get you in a lot of trouble. I can't do that, boy. I love this little position. I'm a little teacher up here and stuff. Got all these people, looking at me in the audience and stuff. I can't get that stuff up. Some of y'all can't get the money up. You love it too much. Because that's where your mind is. Your mind is mining earthly things. Your mind is here minding earthly things. You're not worried about God. God to y'all is just some side piece. You're not worried. That ain't your main. It's just your side piece. God is your side piece. See, the Most High is a genius. Can't nobody get around his words. God has thoroughly examined the hearts of men. And the determination is that the hearts of men is wicked. And men love pleasure more than they love God. And that is just the truth. It really is. But let me show you something. Let me show y'all an example of what you are. And I'm sorry, guys, if I'm not really articulating this lesson really well. Because it's my first time teaching this stuff. I don't have a notebook full of lessons like y'all teachers. This is my first time teaching this. And so sometimes you don't really know where you're going. You're just turning. So 1 Samuel chapter 15. And I'm going to read verse 22 because this right here is a practical example of Mark 10 and in James and Matthew 6, which is what we just read previously. This is why a lot of y'all have trouble. 1 Samuel 15 and 22. And a lot of y'all laughed at Saul and was like, look at Saul. He's so hard-headed. He didn't do what the Most High told him to do. But a lot of y'all actually was laughing at yourself. Because what you didn't realize is it was a dynamic. A lot of y'all, you are Saul. Some of y'all think y'all David. But you're actually Saul. That's the scariest thing. Verse 22. And Samuel said, have the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord. See? Let me see. There was something I was doing. Okay, now I'm just going to keep this because I thought there was something that I wanted to read. Let me reread it because I feel like we lost the thought. And Samuel said, have the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord. These are for the brothers and sisters right here that can't just do what God said. They got to do extra. We got to do extra. We got to do more. I remember concerning this understanding how we know a day is 12 hours, because God literally said it out of his mouth, the one who created it. We had a sister tell us who over here at Israel's church, what's wrong with just doing another 12? What's wrong with just doing 24? Well, because God didn't say 24. God said 12 because a full day is 12 hours. The light. Forget the word day. God said the light is 12 hours. Or the girl said, well, just to be safe, just to do extra, what's wrong with serving God another, an extra 12 hours, implying that we need to do it how we were doing it before? Listen, man, God didn't freaking tell you to do 24 hours. God told you just the light, 12 hours. That's it. That's what gets Israel in trouble. All of this extra, I got to do more. Because you know what more turns into? More turns into tradition. And you know what that tradition ends up becoming? That tradition ends up becoming law that wasn't meant to be a law. And thus, that tradition ends up breaking the commandments. That's why God doesn't want you to do more. That's why. Just do what he tells you to do. God say walk straight. Nah, we got to work. We got to walk. God say walk straight. Nah, we got to walk in a zigzag pattern. What did God just tell you? Walk straight, man. Do what God tells you to do. None of that extra stuff. That extra stuff is why we got the traditions of men today instead of the Bible. That's why we got pastors saying that drinking wine is a sin. Playing the lottery is a sin. That's why we got that. Because why? We wouldn't just call sin what God told us sin meant, and that's transgressing the commandments of God. So you got to make stuff up. We got to do some extra stuff, add stuff on. The Lord just told you don't add or take away. Just do what God say, man. It's literally that simple. That's it. It's that simple, man. Now, let's go ahead, guys, and finish this thing up. I am getting mighty tired. I had a long day today, man. So back to Genesis chapter 22. And I am going to read, let me see. 13. So I'm going to read verse 13 through 19. And it says, And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by the horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. So, he didn't sacrifice Isaac, but the Lord had a ram caught in the bush, and that's what Abraham was going to sacrifice. 14. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. 15. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy only son, because you gave up the money, because you gave up your position in the church, because you were willing to give up your friends for me. Guess what? Verse 17. That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemy. And that's actually talking about Christ's second coming. That's what it's really talking about. Because we in captivity right now. But look at that. He promised Abraham, he said, listen, because you did this, guess what? Your seed, the children, the amount of Israelites, it's going to be as the sand of the sea. It's going to be as the stars of heaven. And not only that, your seed, Abraham, your blood, shall possess the gate of his enemy. So I don't care what the mother teachers say. God said, your seed, the Israelites, shall possess the gate of his enemies. 18. And in thy seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. And all nations of the earth shall be blessed. It's talking about them 10 tribes, talking about the house of Israel. Okay. Verse 19. Let me see, is that it? Yep, verse 19. I got to read that. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt in Beersheba. So it said, the Lord promised Abraham, he said, listen, Abraham, because you didn't withhold your son from me, and you withhold your son from me, and you showed me that you really do truly love me, and you wasn't in it for the promises or anything else like that, but it was because you genuinely love me, you trusted me, and you had faith in me. You're going to possess the gate of your enemy. So let's go to Psalms chapter 2 and verse 8 concerning possessing the gate of our enemies. Verse 8, and it says, Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance. That's what the Father is going to give the Son, and naturally us, because we're going to inherit all things that Christ inherits. He said, I will give thee the heathen for thine inheritance. You know what that means? These people over us and the rest of the nations, they're going to be our property. Remember when we was the nation's property? Where, guess what? The time is going to come where they're going to be our property. We ain't talking about them darn wicked Israelites. We ain't talking about them. They're going to be cast into outer darkness, burning and screaming their lungs out. We talking to the remnant. Since the beginning of time all the way to Christ's return, that remnant is going to possess the heathen for an inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. To my Jesus, but naturally the Israelites, because we're going to inherit all things as well. That was a promise Christ made to us. That's a promise, brothers and sisters. That's going to happen. And I'm not willing to sacrifice all of that for some mess, because that's what it is, a mess. Some mess here in Babylon. I can't do it. I want to possess some heathen for my inheritance. I want to run this earth with the Most High. I want to be a king with him. Now, let's go ahead and go to Genesis 24. Genesis chapter 24. I don't know if I put something for that. No, it's not Genesis 24. It's actually Deuteronomy 30. Because the time is coming, brothers and sisters, where all of these things we're reading that Abraham was promised by the Most High, that's going to come to pass. And we're going to live that out as his seed. We're going to live these promises out. So the day is going to come when our captivity is going to end, and we're going to prosper from that day and forth. Let's read Deuteronomy 30, verse 3 through 7. Let's see what the Most High say is going to happen concerning our enemies. Verse 3. That then the Lord thy God. Let me read verse 2. I love verse 2. And thou shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. And that's what's going on right here. A lot of us are turning in this captivity back to the Most High with all our heart, mind, and soul. And even our children. Our children are serving the Most High at a very young age. 13, 16, 12, 8. And guess what's going to happen? Verse 3. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity. Man, I'm going to come back and get y'all. And have what? Compassion upon thee. And see how the Lord said, I'm going to turn your captivity. That's why we see all of this commotion going on among the nations. That's why you're hearing about war. That's why all these natural disasters are happening. Because the Lord is beginning to turn our captivity. That's why these nations got infighting among one another, because he's turning our captivity. All of this stuff, brothers and sisters, you see out here in the world that's going on, is getting bad and stuff. This is for you. Because the Lord is he's turning your captivity. This is all got to do with the so-called black man and black woman that everybody ignores. This whole thing is about us. And the heathen are going to find that out soon. Lord said, I'm going to turn your captivity and what? And have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from what? All nations. Because that's where we are, brothers and sisters. We in every nation under the sun. But you see that? To the preterists right here. That they believe in that preterism. What do it say right here? God going what? He will what? Return. Will return. Will return. How do you get out of that? Will return. He ain't returned yet because we still in captivity. And it says, and gather thee, this same God, to my Jesus, will gather thee from all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. Verse 4, and it says, and if any of thine be driven out into the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from hence will he fetch thee. He know where every single Israelite is at. From the tiniest island in the world, God know exactly where his children are. It could be underground It could be an underground nation somewhere. God know exactly where his children are. He say, my children right there in that underground nation. I'm going to come get them out of there. Lord know exactly where we at. We everywhere. The Lord scattered us, boy. He wasn't playing. 5. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed. Talking about the land of Canaan. And thou shalt possess it. So God, listen, you going to possess this land. Just like I said. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. Because not only will we be the righteous remnant, but above, because this captivity that we've been in is like no other captivity that we have ever faced. It ain't nothing like this Babylonian captivity, none of that. This captivity we in is hell. It's hellacious. That's why God said, I'll multiply thee and do thee good above thy fathers. Because see, they was in captivity to Egypt. But this one we in is a mess. That's what it is. It's a mess. Verse 6. And he says, and the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed. Remember, he said he's going to give us that new mind. He's going to get that stony mind out of us. It says, and the heart of thy seed, to what? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, that thou mayest live Because understand this too, brother and sister. Even the best among Israel, the quote-unquote most righteous among Israel, we are bugged the hell out. I'm bugged out. Brother Reggie Sr., Zahar, Keziah, and the rest of y'all. It don't matter how much we lug, how much we read stuff, we are bugged out. God has to heal our mind because we a mess. We a mess. We are. We are destroyed up here. I'm destroyed up here. It's some stuff I'm probably doing because of this captivity. I don't even realize I'm doing it. That's how destroyed we are. Admit it, you're destroyed. We all destroyed. No matter how much holy we think we are. Oh, I be reading these scripts. We destroyed up here. God got to give us a new mind. Because our mind is fried up here in Babylon. It's fried. Fried indeed. Verse 7. Now watch what's going to happen with our enemies. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thy enemies. And think about what curses we have. Poverty. We're what? Landless. And even if we have land, what? Someone else controls it. There's so many curses. We curse coming and going. We're a byword. We're a proverb. The shaking of the leaf curse, meaning that we hear something, we like, oh, somebody out there. That. Them nations gonna get all of that stuff. Them nations gonna feel all of that. Those that hate us reign over us. Guess what? We gonna reign over these nations. Them same ones that hate us and they reign over us. Well, we gonna reign over them. We are going to reign over them. It's only fair. And a lot of teachers don't want this to happen because they love these nations that's over us. They don't want to see it happen, but no one cares about what they think. Their opinions are useless and pathetic. Only God's word matters. The nations are going to suffer, brothers and sisters. They're going to suffer on a level that they never thought possible. And they going to really suffer because in their mind, they got this little soft Joel Osteen Jesus in their mind. But when they see this black man come out the sky, from that day forward, many of them will be killed. And the rest of them, they're going to get ready to endure some hell on earth. Their worst nightmare going to come true. Where the Israelites are going to do unto them as they did unto us. Just like they doing to us, we going to do it to them. They're going to sit they're going to sit before us in the judgment seat. We going to judge them just how we go to their wicked courtrooms and they judging us. They already know we guilty. Same thing. Guilty. Get his ass out of here. Same thing. It's only fair, brothers and sisters. God not playing. A lot of y'all still are not akin to the nature of the God of Israel. He is a God of justice. But, brothers and sisters, let me go ahead and finish this out, guys. Verse 24. Let's go back to Genesis 22. And I'm going to read verses 20 through 24. Not on 24. And it says, and it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, behold, Milcah, she have also born unto thy brother Nahor. Okay, so Abraham now is catching wind. Oh yeah, my brother Nahor. So he bear some children, from Milcah. Now remember, Haran's daughter was Milcah. Okay, and remember, Milcah ended up being married to his brother Nahor. Well, they're probably all old now, just like Abraham's old. They're old. Well, Nahor ended up having children with Milcah and let's see the children. 21. Who's his firstborn, and Booz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Amram, and Chesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jalaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel, so one of the sons of Nahor and Milcah ended up bearing somebody. And Bethuel begot who? Our foremother Rebekah. These 8 Milcah did bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bare Tebah and Gaham and Thaash and Maacah. So the son of Milcah, Nahor and Milcah, their son, Bethuel, begot who? Rebekah, the one that would end up marrying Isaac to have who? Esau and Jacob. Man, I just love how beautiful this stuff is. This stuff is beautiful. And guess what? Well, guess what that means with Rebekah, with this that we just read? That was still Abraham's kin, because that was essentially, how would you even say that? What is that? What would that be? A great granddaughter or something like that? It'd be something like that. But it just show you that was still Abraham's kinsman. So when the Lord said, hey, go get Isaac, someone of my kinsmen, hey, he went to the house of Bethuel, because Bethuel was the son of who? Nahor and Milcah, his kinsman. So I know it's just, I'm sorry y'all this talking. I just love how the Bible just line up, man. It's just so beautiful to read. But that's it for this lesson, guys. I hope you guys got some understanding. And with that, shalom.